Welcome to another insightful episode of Parent Entrepreneur Power. In this podcast, Mary Catherine Johnson and Evan Johnson highlight the successes and struggles of parents in business. They share how to be the example of success in entrepreneurship to foster the same in your child, and so much more. Are you ready to power up?
Okay, welcome everyone. I'm here with my, as always, amazing co-host / mom, Mary Catherine Johnson. And we are excited to have Lauren Fritsch here with us. I think this is going to be a very interesting conversation. I think we're all very excited. Thank you, Lauren, for joining us.
Of course, I'm so happy to be here.
Well, let's start out. I'm sure a lot of people don't know who you are, any listeners. And so for those people, tell us, who are you and what do you do?
Sure. My name is Lauren, and I have been an entrepreneur really since I was about 8 years old, and officially for about 17 years, so almost the entirety of my adult life. And I love this topic of conversation because obviously I was encouraged in the entrepreneurial space by my own parents, and I am very grateful to them for that. And the process of my becoming my own boss and starting several businesses, because there have been a lot of detours on the whole path, started in the fashion world. And I essentially took what many would deem is a big risk, and I put a bunch of samples from designers in Italy that I believed in on a credit card, bought a car with a car loan, and started driving up and down the East Coast selling brands that no one had ever heard of by myself, and no one had ever heard of me. So I had to worm my way into stores, including small boutiques, as well as what we call the majors. So, the major department stores that we know as Saks and Nordstrom, et cetera. And that's how I started my business. And it's evolved so many times since then. But essentially, what I do now is I work at the intersection of joy and profits. And my entire mission is to help business owners, whether they're small business owners and corporate, because I work with both. I want to help them prioritize joy and the emotional and mental health of their stakeholders, including their employees, obviously, and use gentle marketing and sales tactics that feel good, that are trauma informed, and that actually change the world by changing the way we do business. And certainly I have some great tools for that process. I have a mental model called the Joy Money Matrix. I have a proprietary approach to customer experience, CX, as it's commonly known, and employee experience, EX. And I'm really excited about a new program I'm launching. It's called the Gentle Revolution. And it's about using commerce as a sacred vehicle to heal and serve ourselves, our clients, and the world. So I think that we're in a new iteration over the past, let's call it 18 months. The world has collectively experienced so many different traumas. And I'm very excited to be leaving behind a lot of the best practices that we've had and moving into a new world of entrepreneurship that our children are going to be the carriers of. And so for me, this is important work, and it's layered work, and it's difficult work, and it's also, I think, a hallmark of the age we're in and the experiences that we've all shared as a collective.
That's really cool.
A little bit about me.
I love that. I love that. Do you have any kids? And if so, how old are they?
Yes, I have one amazing girl, although walking on the beach yesterday, someone tried to get me to take his child. And it was a joke, but he has a child who's as extroverted as mine is. And So we made friends very quickly. Charlotte is 6 going on 7, and she is an only child and likely to be an only child. She is very fortunate to have 12 first cousins. So she's, surrounded by that. But she is a bundle of energy and the most extroverted person I've ever met in my life. And I've met lots of people. And for 2 introverted parents, it has been a real journey to manage that energy that's so different from our needs. So I think we're good.
That's amazing. I mean, just a couple of things that I have to comment on. Number one, the words gentle and revolution side by side is an interesting juxtaposition. That's a really interesting concept. So I can't wait to hear more about that. But introverted parents raising a very extroverted child, I bet that has made for some very interesting adventures.
Charlotte is known as the mayor of any town she graces with her presence, whether it's for one day or for longer. And she's an unusual person. She's very much a politician, and we knew that from the very, very earliest age. I mean, I can tell a story about when I was pregnant that I found so strange, and I didn't realize how unusual it was. So maybe I'll share that.
Go for it.
So when I was pregnant, we live in New York City normally, and during COVID, we live in the Dominican Republic. But in New York City, I was walking the streets like every day, like everybody does, to get where you need to go. And I'm pregnant, and I didn't show until I was pretty far along because I'm quite tall, so I have a lot of space. And so as I got to have more of a tummy, I was 6 months pregnant before people could tell. And I started experiencing the strangest thing. Everywhere I went, people would stop to talk to me and congratulate me, complete and utter strangers. And I just assumed that this is what people do with pregnant women in New York City, because this is the only time I've been pregnant in New York City. And so I was telling my husband, like, I'm walking around and everybody just like stops and talks and says congratulations, and oh my gosh, like in all different languages, doesn't matter. And my husband was like, I wonder if it's just a downtown thing, because I was walking with a pregnant colleague in Midtown and nobody said anything to her. So shortly thereafter, I'm going to Midtown, where I went to get acupuncture, and same thing. It's a different vibe in Midtown for sure. Different people, same things happening. People are shouting at me, congratulations. I mean, and then later on in the summer, I started to show a lot more. And I was walking with my husband one day. We were waiting on a corner right near our house, and we're just standing waiting for the light because we can't cross, right? And there's a car that's coming down the street, and it slows down, and it's one of these big black SUVs with tinted windows. So it's a chauffeur car. Like, surely there are people inside who have a Uber driver, what have you. And the car slows down. They roll down the windows and start leaning out to tell me, congratulations, you look great, mama, like all this stuff. And I'm like, what is that? My husband, and I was like, this is what happens every day. My husband was the one going, what is going on? And I'm like, this is what I was telling you about. Like, on the subway, in cafes, everywhere I go, this is happening daily. And he didn't really believe me until he saw that situation. He was like, and he's British and very reserved, and it's a bit loud with the motorcycle. He couldn't believe it. And I was like, listen, I've been telling you that this child is a thing. I've been telling you that she has her own little whatever going on, and this is going to be a ride. And he was like, okay, whatever. How do you even know that? And sure enough, when so he finally believed me and was like, this is the weirdest thing. No one ever does this to pregnant ladies. But when she was born, we started carrying her around, either I would carry her or my husband in one of the baby carriers, right? You can't see the babies. Mm-mm. same thing would happen. People would stop us. She's so beautiful. Justin's going, they can't even see if she's in there. They can't see her face. How do they know if she's beautiful? Constantly. And I thought, okay, this is going to be funny. And it turns out that Charlotte is just she loves people. And so her energy, I think, must have just conveyed, regardless of what form she was in, that she loves people. And so in our little neighborhood at age 2, she knew the names of all of the parking attendants, the baristas. She knew who worked at the bodega. She knew their work schedule. So she knew whether to expect them in the morning or the evening. And if they weren't at their post when they're supposed to be, she wanted to know where they were. And she has a truly uncanny ability to connect with people. And so, and I have a story later about her entrepreneurial journey that will demonstrate that.
At 6.
Oh, at 5.
Oh, sorry, 5.
Yeah, it was last year. And she just loves people and is able to connect with them and engage with them. And it's a force, and it's astonishing to have this little person who has such a distinctive characteristic. And I think a lot of kids have distinctive characteristics. Hers just happens to be that it interacts with other people, and so that gets amplified.
That's crazy.
And I was the same baby, right? I was
You know
literally the
what?
exact opposite.
Just the exact opposite. Absolutely the exact opposite. Up to the age of 3, when we went anywhere and anyone actually looked at him and gave him attention and came, oh, how he would burst out crying, just like, get away. I mean, just totally up until the age of 3, I knew which, grocery store clerks I could go to that were calm spoken, not like all in your face, and calm spoken and calm, and actually we're getting at his level and realizing that he didn't want to be, totally the center of attention and everybody cooing at him. And so he built a relationship with them, and they knew who he was and he knew who they were. And then when his brother was born, the day he was in the hospital, visiting his brother, and we were getting ready to go home. We had a double room with somebody else, and he actually got off of the bed, walked around, pulled the curtain back, and went and started talking to the gal next door, going, I have a little brother. Did you know I have a little? And I'm just like, what happened? Who is this? Where did he come? And he just started chatting away and telling him how amazing it was. And I'm a big brother now. And I'm just, that minute, it just shifted, just switched. It was, but he was the exact opposite. And look at him now. He doesn't cry at all when anybody looks at him.
Yeah, hardly ever.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
I love it. How children develop, I find it so fascinating, and not so much from like their milestones perspective, but just the phases they go through and what they're interested in and how they express.
Yeah, that's, the first time we did this Parent Entrepreneur Power, that was really what it was all about, because business growth, it basically carries through the exact same trajectory, right? We have the newborn stage when we are just so enamored with this thing and that's all we can think about and talk about. It's the same thing when we have kids, and then the kids go through, toddler, where they fall, they go huge leaps forward and then fall back. We do the same thing in business, right? With the growth phases and all those things. So the actual phases were the same, but now we can look at this and it's so exciting. Just the other day, probably about a month ago, actually, Evan and I were chatting, and I just was like, we need to do Parent Entrepreneur Power again, because this is the second generation, because we were on the other side of both of my boys actually becoming adults and going through their own journeys of whether they're going to go to college or not, and what they're going to do for a living and all that stuff. And my business was able to provide an opportunity for both of them. Not that they had to work for me necessarily, like they were an employee where they had to do a particular job in my business, but that I was able to open it up to some opportunities for them to stretch their wings and test out what some of these skills might be and see how it was to actually make a living and actually make money off of doing particular things. And both of them got to do that. And it was like, it wasn't by design. It's not like I had this, this master plan to, build this business and then have my kids be able to do this. It just happened. It just was me paying attention to what they were doing and what they wanted at the time and allowing for the fulfillment of that thing through my business. So take us into wonderful Charlotte and her entrepreneurial journey and educate us as to what a 5-year-old can do.
Sure. Well, I'll start with that. My parents encouraged us to be entrepreneurs, so we sold birdhouses and lemonade and did very well. Because of our location was on a busy highway, but we had ample room for people to turn in and turn around, which was crucial.
Yeah, logistics. It's all about logistics.
It's important. And so Charlotte has always shown an interest in making money. Like that has been something she's interested in. And namely because she identified very early that she really likes hotels. And she really wants to live in a hotel. And I was like, listen, you can live in a hotel. You have to pay for that. And one way that you can pay for living in a hotel is either to have your own business or to be so good at something that people pay you lots of money to do it, right? Those are two different ways. You can build a business or, excel in whatever it is, like a sport or a, writing or whatever. So she just filed that away. And last year, obviously, everybody was in lockdown. And my family and my husband and I had COVID right around the time that everybody was shutting down their normal activities. And a couple months later, after I'm sure everyone else was like, we were just stir crazy. And it started to become springtime and things started to open up a bit more. And my mom came to visit and Charlotte said, you know what, I am going to sell something in the village nearby. And we spent COVID in a small town called Millbrook in upstate New York. It's in the Hudson Valley. And Charlotte's really lucky because it's a very specific demographic. But my mom came to visit and she said, I'm going to sell something in the village of Millbrook tomorrow. I want to figure out something to sell. And lemonade, we were like, I don't know, lemonade. We don't have the supplies. So she goes poking around and she finds pipe cleaners. So her materials cost was $0 because we already have them. And she says to my mom, she says, who she calls Mama, she said, Mama, I need you to do this. And she sort of kind of shows her how to like put the 2 or 3 pipe cleaner colors together. And she says, can you make bracelets? But we need 2 sizes. We need adult size and child size. And I thought, okay, all right, I see where this is going. And then she starts to pick the color combinations. So she selects the color combinations, passes them off to my mom. So Charlotte was taking advantage of her labor force because the labor force was unpaid, which she didn't tell her about.
And would pretty much do whatever she wanted, right?
Yeah, there's a bit of exploitation there.
Yeah.
And so over the course of the evening, my mom and I sat next to one another and we were watching like some drama or something on Netflix, and Charlotte is picking the colors and then collecting them into 2 piles, adult and child size. So I believe then there was some sign making, and then we put them in a nice bowl and we head out to Millbrook the next day. Within I think she had 2 sessions of selling, one at the farmer's market in the morning, and then one we went back just to the sidewalk, basically outside the cafe, because there's like one cafe. And Charlotte sold all of her products, but also made $40 in one day from pipe cleaner bracelets. And part of it happened because she would ask them, who is it for? Is it for you or is it for someone else? And so they would say, she said, well, you need to get the child size if it's for a child or a grandchild. And people would just literally throw money at her.
Oh my gosh.
So
I gotta hire her.
it was great. She was a natural. And I will say that my entire family of origin, we in some way, shape, or form work in a sales capacity, right? So she comes by it honestly, like it's a inherited thing, I think.
Yeah.
Um, but it was very sweet to watch. And look, she wants to sell something here. She keeps asking to do it, but I keep trying to tell her how the economics are different here. And so the money that she would make is not gonna, it's not gonna go very far and may not even cover her costs because of the incredible disparity of wealth.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, that's, which is a good thing to talk about, right? And we talk about, we talk about what that looks like and how it manifests in our day to day. So in any case, she's itching to do something else, but we haven't quite hit on the right vehicle, I suppose, for her entrepreneurial.
Wow. Oh, wow. That's incredible. And that's, I mean, it's obviously in your genetics, right? It's been genetically engineered for her to be doing something like this.
Yeah, I think so. And even on my husband's side, one of his granddad ran his own like humane psychiatric hospital, which is really bizarre, like that used very unusual techniques and exposed them to the outdoors and invited the families to come and visit. It was like a super different thing. And then on his mom's side, my husband's mom's side, is a woman who had a dress shop, like a very, you know, she would basically copy the hot designs of the time and had a dress shop. So I think it's coming in from both sides, even if it's not necessarily in my husband's generation. So
wow. So thinking about that though, especially if you have entrepreneurship in both sides of her family, from her mother and her father, you know, one of the things that I talk about with Evan and Riley is that my whole goal is to at least have them start out further along than I did, right? And have less of the obstacles if I can. I can't remove all obstacles. That's not humanly possible. Then they wouldn't have a life. They wouldn't learn anything if they didn't have to overcome anything, but at least make it a little easier. How do you see Charlotte and her life being a little easier in some of those obstacles? Most of them I think of as mindset obstacles, right? That we all have to overcome, not necessarily products or, you know, location or anything like that, but really in our own heads. That's where most of the walls are. How are you helping her start a little further along than you did?
That's, I think, an excellent question because, you know, mindset, I'm 40 now and I've been in business almost half my life, right? And yet I'm still working on mindset.
It doesn't stop.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
I was thinking today about some of the principles that I was laying out for an upcoming program and then some of the coaching I'm doing. And I thought, what am I going to do in order to convey some of these concepts to Charlotte? And at what point does that become a concerted effort? Or is it something that just simply modeling it will help? So I want to say first that that modeling a different way of facing conflict, I think is one thing that we do differently, right, in our family. And then modeling a different way of speaking about ourselves and about others is another thing that I think is really important. And even this is actually super great, because the other day I had Charlotte with me at a store, and they had sold me something without giving me the full information that I needed. And I got upset. And I said, you should have told me this before I transferred a lot of money to you and purchased, not having any clue that I was going to need yet another vendor to do installation. This was not cool. And I don't want to say ashamed, but I was like unhappy with myself that I got angry. And so in the car on the way home, I said, Charlotte, I got angry in that interaction, and I wish I had not. And they also didn't do something they should have done. Right. So, you know what, next time I'm going to do this or that differently. And I'm going to take some deep breaths now, because I'm still upset about it. And so there are all these moments, I think, that we take for granted. You know what? I'm here in an Airbnb by myself so I can work. I am really happy that my daughter knows I'm doing that.
Yeah.
Even though I miss her and I know she misses me. It's super important for her to see that mommy is doing work, not because, I have to go to work, because I have to do work that I really love. Mm-hmm. And she's going to be able to see that. And I think that's huge.
Yeah.
And the other piece is that, so my husband was laid off about 2 years ago. He's doing consulting, right, which is great. But he hasn't found a job, and he's been actively looking. He has like 4 interviews every single week for 2 years straight. And he's very senior, so that's part of it, blah. But I want her to see that there are ways that you can be at cause and choose what you're doing, and see that we can still take care of our family. We can still have a nice home. We can do these things because we have business interests, right? Even without a job. And she knows daddy doesn't have a job. And there are some things that we've put on hold until daddy gets a job, right? Like she's part of that conversation. And so I think there are many ways that just the day-to-day she's getting exposure that I think will set her up in a different way, because my husband and I have discussed, we don't know if she's going to go to college. We don't care one way or another. We want her to be happy, and we want her to be doing something she loves. And that might not include college, right? So we also are very clear, and this is very different from a New York dominant worldview, where people, I put my foot in it at a fundraiser before COVID at my daughter's little preschool, when I was like, yeah, did you see that article in the New York Times? People are paying $100K to get their kids into Harvard who shouldn't be in Harvard. And the people I was talking to were like, we think that's a perfectly reasonable investment.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, I don't.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, there's a clash of worldview right there in values.
Yeah.
Wait, that was $100,000 to get into Harvard?
Yeah.
So that's not even including the Harvard tuition cost?
No,
Jesus.
it's to get a kid in who doesn't belong there, because
Right.
they want the cachet that comes with the Harvard diploma. And I was all like, if my kid's not going to get into Harvard, I'm not going to pull strings to get my kid into Harvard. My kid needs to do that on her own. And they did not. I could have had like 3 heads. And so it's bizarre, but I understand where they're coming from. And there are some other contextual things that I could explain how they arrived there, but I'm not going to get into it.
Yeah.
But and it, given the culture that they were both brought up in, it makes total sense.
Yeah.
However, we are in a different era where our kids have a massive privilege if they have parents like you, yes, or parents like me, and we say, hey kid, the world's your oyster, go get them. I will support you. I'm not going to do it for you, but go get them. And if you screw up, that's okay. And I swear, I think the year that I stopped getting a couple $100 here and there from my parents, they were doing the happy dance. And that was probably like 3-ish years into my business.
Yeah.
So I was still in my 20s, but they were like, oh, freaking finally. I'd be like, hey, can I have $200?
A little here, a little there. Oh my gosh.
But yeah, we have to, I think, be very conscious about extricating ourselves from some of the cultural norms around the paths our kids are going to take. And I also want to start being more proactive, I think, about, okay, what are the lessons I really want to make sure we hit on now that once they get to that age 7 and up, they have like a different, they can hold abstract thought and it gets to be like a different thing. But
yeah,
it's exciting.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I know Evan could talk a long time about college and those all those options.
It's a big no from me.
So clear.
Yeah, no.
Been there, done that. Been there, done that. Yep.
It's so clear. I love it.
Oh.
Yeah. And I agree with you. I mean, it really is the, I think that's the one thing we've seen. We've done several interviews already for this podcast, and the different parents we talk to with the different mindsets. And some parents, even though they're entrepreneurs, and after we go through this concept and talk about, the opportunities and how you can, and even they say, yeah, my kid's already started a business and all these things, but they say, but they have to go to college. It's like, why? Oh, but because, and that's pretty much where they stop, right?
It's like saying they've been in the Army for 10 years, but they need to go to boot camp.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
why.
Yeah. It's bizarre.
It is. And, I understand where those parents are coming from. I went to an elite boarding school. 90 kids out of my graduating class went to Harvard, Princeton, Yale. I went to the University of Virginia. Like, it's a very academically focused institution. Like, I understand where these parents are coming from. And that is the old way. Like, there are such new paradigms that are happening because of the decentralization of education and the democratization of education. COVID has accelerated it. Yeah. I mean, we could, I'm sure, go on about it, but I'll tell you something. How about this? I'm on the board of an organization that is phenomenal. It's called My Social Canvas. And they certainly have girls who are part of the community who are in college and post-college, but it's geared towards young millennial and Gen Z young women. It empowers them in their entrepreneurship. So the entire business model says, hey, young women and girls, design something, win a contest with your design because it's so good, then we'll manufacture it and we're going to put it in stores because we partner with Apple and Samsung and Marvel and Disney. And so once your design is created and gets the production green light from our partners, you get a cut of everything that is sold. And by the way, if you want to sell these things to your sorority or to your friends and family or to your social channels, you can do that too. And we'll make sure that you get an affiliate code just for you. Then there's a next layer that is so exciting that I'm really pumped about, which is the financial literacy layer. So they're working on, and what can I talk about? We're working on ways to create financial literacy for these young women so that they have access to this money. They have bank accounts, credit cards, ETFs, Bitcoin, you name it. They're going to be learning about it. And then they're empowered to deploy the capital that they have created for themselves in a way that supports their education or their entrepreneurial dreams. So I'm super invested in this as an advisor, and then we'll probably take a bigger role at some point. But it's just, obviously it's aligned with my own values. And I think that the business model is so innovative. And it's one of the reasons that My Social Canvas has been so explosive in its growth and in attracting partners. So anyway, all that to say is this new generation, yes, they value education. Like I said, most of the girls who are in the community, they go to college, but they are hungry for entrepreneurial opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a certain freedom, right? I mean, you don't necessarily have to conform to any particular rules or I mean, obviously laws, but I mean, rules that someone else lays down like you do for your job. Really, it allows you the freedom to explore and test and try and all those things. Wow, that sounds incredible. And is this for girls all over the world or just the US?
They are global.
Yay.
They are inclusive, and they are growing at a phenomenal rate. So It's exciting.
Well, we'll have to definitely talk offline and see if I can contribute anything. I would absolutely be so excited about that. I'm starting with a more of like a incubator here in my local area, being an advisor and mentor for marketing and conversational marketing specifically for this incubator for founders. But it's really just local founders, not just, I don't want to minimize it, but it doesn't have a specific focus like girls from all over the world, which is a demographic that really needs support.
Yeah, it does. And I don't know the name of the show, but Amazon has just produced they just shot it in June in New York, a show that showcases social impact founders. And Lisa Mayer, who's the founder of My Social Canvas, she participated in the filming of the show. So she is one of the founders that they follow. And that show is dropping on Amazon, I believe, in the fall. I wish I knew the name of it, but I don't. But I'm sure there's going to be a big push around it because it is, it's buzzy, social impact businesses are buzzy, and they have legs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely. Well, by the time we publish this episode, hopefully we'll have a name and we can put all these links in the show notes for this episode, because this is really what it's all about. And we as parents, I mean, we don't have to wait for a foundation or, some other external force. We can actually do this within our own businesses and give the support to our children, our neighbors' kids, depending on how close we are and how comfortable that is. But we can really have opportunities for our own children to grow and experience whatever they need. I mean, even just skills like Evan and Riley, both my kids, they really just gained those skills through me teaching them and asking them, hey, do you want to learn this? And like Evan, do you want to learn how to edit my podcast? Because I'm really stressed and I'm strapped and I need someone to help me out. I don't have time. I'll teach you how to do this and then I'll pay you to do it for me. And he's like, okay. And then when it came time to want to work and get a job, like all of his friends were going out to McDonald's or the local grocery store or Starbucks or anything like that. He tried that, right, Evan?
Yeah. I lasted at Starbucks for a month before I quit because entrepreneurship is so much better.
It is.
I can work in my pajamas. I can't work in my pajamas at Starbucks. That's a deal breaker.
I think so.
I love it.
Yeah. And then we have that opportunity. There's something in your business. If you pay attention to what your kid does, what they're drawn to, what they're good at, if they're more operational, if they're more technical, I have some friends whose kids are already like building apps, right? And they're like 11 and 12, right? They're building apps or they're coding something, right? So, I mean, if they're technical, they're operational, they're more creative, there's something in your business that you can give them and teach them how to do. And then the key that we've seen so far in the interviews and that, again, that I did with Evan and Riley is that I didn't have them, have to do the job like from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday kind of thing, right? Sometime within business hours and coordinate it that way. It was really, here's a task. It has to be done by this day every week, this time every week. I don't care when you do it. I don't care how you do it. As long as it's done by that time, you're good. And their own responsibility to get it done. If Evan waited till midnight to do a podcast episode and it was supposed to be published at 4 a.m., I don't care. As long as it's published at 4 a.m., right? And now he doesn't even have to do that. He's got somebody else to do it for him.
Already delegating. I love it.
He already has a team.
Yeah. I don't know yet so my first after selling birdhouses and lemonade, my dad used to have us sort his paperwork. So we use our stairs, which were very wide and like shallow and long, to sort paperwork. So I remember doing that. And we certainly went with him on jobs. I've definitely done that, and we handled customers and stuff. Um, he has a company that does phlebotomy like all around the Southeast, and so uh, we interacted with people certainly. And then Charlotte has shown interest. She says she wants to be a chef, and she has an incredible palate, so that's a good start. And she'll help me cook sometimes, but she's more interested in just eating what I cook. Um, but she really is interested in making a YouTube channel. I think a lot of kids her age are, but she also wants to make some Roblox games. And that's something that I think she's just a bit too young for right now. And we also need to get a PC setup. It I think would work a lot better to have like a desktop gamer setup. But I'm definitely going to work with her on creating a simple Roblox game if she maintains that interest over the next, let's say, 6 to 12 months. And she understands that we exchange real money for Robux, right? Which is how those people make money. And I'm not even averse to hiring someone to help us either, right? Just to give her that experience. So that's something that I've thought about, that I don't have the bandwidth nor the tech setup right now to do. My Mac does not like the Roblox creator app or application. So at some point in the future, I can see us doing that. And then beyond that, I think of, I suspect she will have a business of some sort if I had to call it today. I don't know what it's going to be. And so even from a couple years ago, I've thought, okay, I'm not going to be a typical stage mom. And I use that phrase loosely, but I know that I want to be here to help her manage whatever her career will be, because she's going to need some help at some point to have that boost, right? And be able to take whatever is her creative impulse. And that feels like a very humbling and exciting process to know that we get to take on. And you've done it so beautifully with your son. So
it's so fun. I just got to say, it's just so fun to just, it's like offering up a plate of something and watching them explore it and figure it out and blossom. And it's really a lot of fun. And we had another gentleman ask us once, Mary, what are you going to do? Like when he found out that Evan did podcasting for me, podcast editing, he says, what are you going to do when these other people want his time? Aren't you going to be jealous? And I'm like, no. Why would I be jealous? That's the point. I'm not narcissistic in the sense that he has to only be with me. But that's all the parenting styles that are out there. There are so many different places that we are hopefully reaching to say, you don't have to do it like me. You don't have to do it like Lauren. You don't have to do it like anyone. Just open up an opportunity for your kids to see and explore, and do it in a time when it's safe. Now, if they're safe with you, obviously, then it's going to allow for so many more opportunities when they're out in the world and on their own. And yes, their mortgage is at stake, or, yes, the car payment they have to make, or, they do have to pay off student loans or whatever. If they have that opportunity while they're with you in a safe and relatively safe environment, and a stable environment, a supportive environment, they are going to only grow.
Yeah, I agree. What you just said reminded me of a book that I read fairly recently. It's by a woman who's an entrepreneur, a writer, a mythologist, a farmer too. She's called Sharon Blackie, and she's gosh, I don't know if she lives in Ireland or the UK at this point, but over there. And reading her book, she didn't make some of those entrepreneurial choices until much later in life. And reading her book, I realized that I'm not going to direct my kids. You can probably tell. I'm not going to direct my kids' path. I'm not going to be a parent sitting in the interview room at Google, for parents rating room, because they have them now.
Gosh.
So many parents come to their kids' interviews.
Are you kidding?
No, Facebook and Google and all the big tech companies have a parents waiting room. Not kidding.
Oh my goodness.
I know. I would be so mortified if that were me. So no, that's not going to be happening. But I also want her to know that that she gets very early on to decide her definition of success. And we live, coming from New York City, living in a place where we do have business interests here in the Dominican. I realized very quickly that we started to recreate our New York pace, our New York mores, our New York expectations. And I thought, oh gosh, we're doing it all wrong. And so it's important to me that she stays true to the impulses that she has as a human, certainly to meet the basic needs, right? But that she gets to choose the kind of life that she wants, that is fulfilling to her. And that could mean going to the Outer Hebrides Islands and being a sheep herder, right? Like Sharon, okay? I'm getting that a little bit wrong, but you get me. And but Sharon didn't do it until she was much older, right? But saying, I don't have to adopt the worldview of the dominant paradigm, whatever that is, wherever I may be. I get to very explicitly and consciously choose what I want to create for myself, so that maybe I won't have student loans, or maybe I won't have a car payment because I ride a scooter. I don't know. But I don't want her to feel like she has to have all these things, because I certainly lived my life that way, very much so, until I realized that I was just doing it unconsciously. It was just part of my conditioning. Like, this is what you do. Yeah. And so I think if there's anything that empowers an entrepreneurial life, it's that you get to choose the success. You can be an entrepreneur and make necklaces in your studio and live on, I don't know, $3,000 a month, let's say, or you can go and found a world-changing app and be a billionaire. Like, well, it's cool. Mm-hmm. Do you, right? Or have a job that you really like, and then have an entrepreneurial side hustle if that's the gig that suits. So I think that's the one thing that I hope we give to her as far as perspective and definitions of success. And I think that suits an entrepreneur at any point, really, along the journey.
Totally. And I think you've already answered our last question, but let me make sure that's the case, right, Evan? I think she just did it.
Actually, kind of.
Yeah, because we typically ask, what if you died tomorrow, what entrepreneurial legacy would you feel like you've left for Charlotte so that she has the opportunity to create her own journey?
I think that, yes, and I can qualify it just a little bit more specifically to that question, which is that it goes back to the word you just spoke, journey. Mm-hmm. We're not doing this so that we can sell a thing or achieve a certain number of commas and zeros in our bank accounts, or because the overriding thing is we want to wear pajamas day to day. We're doing this because there is a journey that we're being called to, right? And I think that component of it, the success goes with it, right? Your definition of success, but that it's really a journey of deeper discovery and connection with oneself and also with the world, and keeping in mind that there's no fixed endpoint. It's just going to be what you just said, a continual journey.
There you go.
Yes, that was amazing.
Thank you.
So, for everyone listening who wants to find out more about you and about what you do, where are you online? Where can they find you?
So I have a website that tracks my personal stuff, which is just my name, laurenfritsch.com. And then my business lives at joymoneymatrix.com.
Perfect.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes. Thank you for braving this whole new world with us and adapting to this while you're in the Airbnb and all the things that we talked about offline, or off mic. I'm just so thankful that you're here and sharing this journey with us and contributed such amazing advice to the listeners of this show. So I can't wait to find out more. I can't wait to have another conversation with you. Definitely. We're going to have to schedule that. And in the meantime, stay safe and obviously keep creating the joy in your life. You obviously are doing it.
It was such a pleasure to speak with both of you. And I just love the perspective you're bringing to this. It's so refreshing. And it's so fun. Like, you're clearly having fun. And it's such a delight to see a mom and a son partnering together in this way. Like, who needs another 2 actor best friends podcast? Like,
Yeah, I'm having fun.
Mother, son, way cooler.
Yeah, I'm definitely having fun.
Good. Yeah.
Me too.
Thank you so much, Lauren, for coming on the show. Thank you for listening to this episode of Parent Entrepreneur Power. Hopefully you came away with valuable tools you can use in your business, life, and relationship with your kids. If you want to hear more about our mission, or if you want more insights into cultivating your parent entrepreneur power, join our movement to make entrepreneurship more accessible to parents and their kids at parentrepreneur.power.com.